All right, so let's just start right away with number 1 and see how far we get. Hopefully we get done. If not, I'll make sure to pick up where I left off with my next class, so that way when I put the videos together, you'll have all the questions to look at, okay? All right, so in number 1, it says we have a table that gives us the lengths of fish in inches. And it says 24 is an error, all right, a mistake. All right, they use that word outlier. You've heard that word from me. All right, it just means something that's far away in one of the directions. All right, so it's not like the other ones. All right, so if they remove it, so 24 is gone now, which measurement is going to change the most? Well, I hope that you've learned from me that in terms of outliers impacting your data values, the one that it doesn't really impact is the median. All right, so the median is not really going to change much. It might not even change at all. It doesn't change at all, by the way. Okay? But it might change. But in this case, it doesn't change at all. Now, the mean is going to be affected, so I'm leaving that alone, and the range will be affected. What was the original range? So original range, or OR. 24 minus 8 is 16. What's the new range? 8. All right, so that's a big change of 8 units, 8 inches. All right, and the mean is not going to change by that much. Right, the mean with the 24, if you looked at my answer key, the mean was 12.5. And when you take out the 24, the mean doesn't even change by an entire inch. Okay, but you can see the range changes the most. All right, so I would say in this question, you could probably be 95% confident in the range being the right answer. And then if you wanted to take the extra minute or two to calculate it, you could be sure, 100% sure. Now, on the quiz on Monday, you're going to have more time than you probably really need. All right, trying to be aware that this is the first time you're doing this. So you will probably be able to use the calculator more so than on the SAT. Okay, questions on number 1? Okay, let's go number 2. Now, in number 2, the biggest thing here is how you read the question. If a person is chosen at random from those who recalled at least one dream. So the first thing I always do is I figure out my denominator. So I'm only care about the people that had at least one dream. That's these people, right? Because 39 had 1 to 4 dreams. That's at least one. And then 125 had 5 or more. So I put in my denominator those two added together. Okay? Now, if I'm only caring about those numbers, it says, what's the likelihood that the person belonged to group Y? So these two make the numerator. All right? So when you get that fraction, I believe it is C. Questions on number 2? Sure, go ahead. Any questions number 2? Okay, number 3. All right, number 3 was probably, I would say, if not the toughest one of the toughest. All right, you could, if you wanted to, you could actually type all this into the calculator. You could have written this as L1, right, 0 through 4. And then list 2, I would have done the sum of these. What is these? 90, 40, 20. Right, that could have been your frequency. Right, if you wanted to do that. All right, but what I was trying to do was do this without the calculator. So I was trying to ask students, how many students were asked in this survey how many siblings they have? And it's 600, right? Most people focus on the 300, but it's 300 from each school, and there are 2 schools, so it's 600 total students. So the way to find the median is to take your number, divide by 2, which is 300. So if I go to the 300th and the 301st number, I can find my median. All right? And if you look here, the first 260 numbers are zeros. The next 190 numbers are ones. And what do you notice when you add those two together? You get 450, which passes what number? 300, right? It passes these. So if the 261st number is 0, 261st number is 1, all the way to the 450th number, then I know that these numbers are both 1s. So what's the average of 1 and 1? It is 1. And again, that's a really tricky question. But I would strongly encourage you to try to do these median problems, right, this way to save you time on the real SAT. All right, because even just taking the time to type in to your list is going to cost you possibly a question or two on the SAT. Okay, question on number 3. Any questions? Okay. Number 4. Number 4. It says if the contest winner is selected at random. So this one actually, the grand total is the denominator. It doesn't say if the contest winner is like only the males or the females or an age. It just says all of them. What's the likelihood that it's either a female under age 40? So where is that number? 8, right? 8. And what's the other number for? Or a male age 40 or older? 2. So I have 8 and 2 in my numerator to give me 10/25. And I was telling a group in the back that just be careful when you're answering these on the SAT, because sometimes they'll reduce them, sometimes they don't reduce them. And it drives me crazy because, as any mathematician would tell you, you should always reduce if possible. All right, and this one they did not reduce. Okay? Question on that one? Okay. Number 5. Number 5 was a pretty good one, kind of similar to the one about where we had to look at the dreams. You've got this question: if a registered voter who was 18 to 44 years old in 2012 is chosen at random. And you'll notice when you look at this breakdown, that's not one of the breakdowns. It's actually 2 of the breakdowns together, 18 to 44. So that's another way the SAT will try to mess you up. So the denominator is actually those 2 together. Okay? And the numerator says, okay, if I'm only looking at these categories, what's the likelihood you'll get someone from the Midwest? That's those 2 there. That's the numerator. Use the calculator to get your answer. And I believe the answer is like 0.234, something like that. All right, and this is one of those questions where it's which one's the closest to it, right? Which one is the closest to, and this 0.25 is the closest to 0.234. Okay. Let's go to number 6. All right, number 6, they don't give you any marginal distributions. So if you wanted to take the time to do that, you have 14 people that chose hot fudge, 11 that chose caramel, you had 12 that chose chocolate for the flavor, and 13 for vanilla. If you want to do that for a grand total of 25. Okay? Now it says, of the people who chose vanilla. So what's my denominator if they chose vanilla? 13 people chose vanilla. All right, out of those 13, so that means I'm only looking here, how many chose hot fudge as the topping? 8. All right, hopefully we all got that one right. That's like exactly what we've been practicing. Okay, let's go to number 7. Number 7, what fraction of the dogs? So what's my denominator if it says of the dogs? 25 dogs. I'm only dealing in this row. Out of those 25 dogs, how many were fed only dry food? 2. I mean, like, again, some of these you'll be like, oh man, this is not that bad. And others you're going to be like, oh, that is really challenging. Okay, I totally get it. This is tough stuff. I'm trying to like smash like months, weeks of learning into 3 weeks. All right? So that way you can do well, hopefully, next spring. Number 8. All right, number 8, kind of like that one with the median, with the siblings question. I would say if this isn't the hardest one, it's one of the hardest. All right, this is basically, can you understand what the table is telling you? All right, and so what most students think is that these numbers over here are the total points. But actually, this is just the total number of people or contestants who attempted the quiz. all right, which is 20 each day. So for day one, if I'm only focused on day one, all right, 2 people scored 5 out of 5. 3 people scored a 4 out of 5. 4 people scored 3 out of 5. 6 people got a 2 out of 5, and 2 people got a 1 out of 5. And I'm going to put the last one. 3 people got a 0 out of 5, but you see that when you multiply by 0, it doesn't matter. All right, so if we get, that's 10 points, plus 12 points, plus 12 points, plus 12 points, plus 2 points. What's the total points then, if you add all those together? You get 48 points. Okay, and how many contestants are there? There are 20 contestants, so whatever that is going to be your mean. So what's the answer? All right, and this is one of those where you'd have to bubble it in. Please ask if you're at all confused, right? That's why I'm here. Okay, let's go to number 9. Placebos, sugar pills. It says, what proportion of adults who received a sugar pill? So I'm looking at only sugar pills. All right, so what's the denominator? 150. And how many said they had a cold? 33. And you look over your answer and like, oh, now you decide to reduce. Thanks for that. And you get 11/50ths. Not bitter at all over here. No, sugar pills are called a placebo. Like my father, for example, is in a clinical drug trial. All right, and so he's taking a drug every day. He doesn't know if it's actually the medicine or if it's just sugar. All right, and then he reports and tells the doctor how he's feeling. All right, that's how they determine if the drug is effective or not when they do these trials. Depends on the trial. Right? The idea is, in theory, you're either helping yourself or you're helping other people, because soon, hopefully, it'll get approved for everyone to use it. Okay. The last one. Number 10. All right. And again, this would be up there, if not the hardest, one of the 3 hardest ones. All right. I was hoping that you guys would all see that in these dot plots, you can see that the range is easy to calculate. That's the max minus the min. So what's the highest beats per minute before they exercise? 88. What's the lowest beats per minute before they exercise? So this range is 88 minus 56, which is 32 beats per minute. If you do the same thing for their heart rates after they exercise, when it's gone up because they're exercising, you have 112 minus 80, which is also 32 beats per minute. So the range for both of these groups is the same. So that eliminates B and C, all right? Because it doesn't say they have the same range in B and C. Now, for the standard deviation, okay, what I was trying to teach you yesterday is that if you look at the distributions that are closer to the middle, right, you can see the majority of the values are right around 72, all right, compared to this distribution where they're all spread out. All right, that means distribution 2 is going to have a higher standard deviation. So I would write the standard deviation for group 1 is less than the standard deviation for group 2. When I look at my answer choices for A and D, that's not an option. So what becomes the answer, even though I want it to be that less than sign? It's D, because they're not the same. Okay.
That 96 is just like a little bit more higher, I guess. Like say you added 3 more tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately, even if you added a couple more dots here, it's still more spread out. You'd have to take dots away from the edges and come in for them to be close to the same. All right, now if you wanted to know what the real numbers were, I used the calculator, which you guys could on the quiz on Monday. I used the calculator, and I just typed in 1 with this one, got all the stats. Did it again with this one, all the stats. Because you can see, I guess I should show this. You can see all the individual data values, right? There's 156, 164, 568. You can see all the numbers. So you can type them in if you want. And this is what you get for the standard deviations. So you can see the first one is 6, about 6. That one's about 10. All right? Okay. Hey.